What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, and it is a hell of a day to talk ball. And join me to do just that is Ray Garvin. Ray, what's going on, buddy?
Woo, baby, you see the hat on. How about them? How about them Cowboys, baby? I'm still levitating over here. We told the people we were going to shock the world. 21-0 didn't look good. It didn't look good, but that's why you got to have resolve. You got to have the faith, baby. That's what it takes to be a member of Cowboys Nation. But Matt, Thanksgiving is coming up. I'm feeling good. I get to chop it up with you, baby. I'm having fun, man. Let's have a show. Thank you. ISO me, damn it. Let's have a show. I'm ready to go, baby. I'm ready.
Oh my God, I love the form that Ray is in right now. I needed it. I needed this energy. Absolutely fantastic stuff. We're going to be talking a lot of Cowboys here today because this is not our usual data dump show that we usually perform here 5 p.m. Eastern live on Tuesday, and you get it in your audio feed next day, however you're consuming the show. It's not going to be the usual data dump program. This is strictly going to be a preview of the Thanksgiving slate and the Black Friday game. So we're going to sink our teeth deep into these matchups. We're going to break things down from every different angle. We're going to talk when both teams have the ball, matchups you need to know, some players you need to be thinking about for your fantasy football lineups. But first, I'm going to do something I don't really like to do here because I think I've seen this chatter a lot, Ray, this week, and I don't even want to acknowledge it because I'm worried about jinxing it. But producer Colin runs the show, and he's making me talk about it. If it's on the outline, I'm going to say it. I am Ron Burgundy here. Is this the best Thanksgiving weekend slate ever? Again, I know that is a total disaster to jinx this right off the top, but you look at these three matchups, and frankly, if we loop the Black Friday game into here, I remember 2 years ago, the Black Friday game was what? Jets and Dolphins. I mean,
yeah.
Give me a break. I actually did not watch that game live. My in-laws were visiting. I was like, I think I can pass. I think I can pass on Tim Boyle starting a game against the Dolphins. That's what it was a couple years ago. This is Bears-Eagles, two playoff teams here. Again, Is this the best Thanksgiving slate you can remember? We've got 4 great games coming up here this weekend.
I would have to say it's the best one I can remember because normally the Cowboys are facing off against the Raiders. We didn't want to see that.
The Giants.
We didn't want to see the Cowboys, Raiders, right? Giants. You're getting Packers, Lions, even this right here on the poll from our chat. Which game are you most excited to watch? The Bears, Eagles, 14%. I'm dialed into that game, baby. Like, I want to watch every one of these. This should be an amazing slate. This should be fun for fantasy, fun to watch, entertaining. I'm excited for this one.
I'm really excited for this one. All of these teams are playoff contenders, except the Bengals, but we obviously know there's an exciting storyline happening there as Joe Burrow is returning to action. So again, we've got 4 great games to talk about here. Let's waste no more time. Let's get into it here, and let's start with the first game on Thanksgiving. That's Packers at Lions. The Lions are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 48.5. This game obviously matters a lot for the NFC North Division race. It matters a lot for fantasy managers out there because there are a lot of players that we like starting in this matchup. Let's start first. We're going to just basically go when each team has the ball as we talk through these games. So let's first start, Ray, when the Packers have the ball. When Green Bay has the ball in this first game on Thanksgiving, what has your attention?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough because the Packers offense, we could focus on that in a little bit, but Detroit, they're 4th worst in the NFL versus wide receivers. They're allowing about 33 PPR points per game to that position. So when you think about the Packers, wide receivers a little shaky out there with Dobbs, Christian Watson. I don't know if Reed is back or not, but through the air, like, you can attack this Lions team with the wide receivers through the air. Now, versus the run, this Lions defense against the run, they're 10th best. 10th best in opponent rushing fantasy points per game, 11th best in opponent rushing yards per game. They've allowed 33 runs of 10-plus yards, which is right around middle of the pack. So they're a solid rushing defense, not elite, much shakier versus the pass. So when you look at, what this Green Bay offense is going to have to do, they should get back Josh Jacobs. I believe Jacobs is going to be back, was close to playing last week. Tough sledding for Josh Jacobs or Emmanuel Wilson, I think, versus this Lions front. They're going to have to push the ball. We're not talking about the Lions offense right now. Green Bay is not going to be able to play the same way they played last week versus Minnesota when there was not a threat of any downfield things happening with the passing attack. And the rushing game is what it is. It's Mason and Aaron Jones. So when you're looking at Detroit, right, at home in the dome, their environment, defense, crowd is they're going to have to throw the ball. And Jordan Love has been a little shaky at doing that over the last 3-4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, really good start here. And as we're taping this, we're finding out right now two things. Number one, the over-under just moved to 49 points. So people are betting the over on this one. So that is good to see from a fantasy point perspective. Also, Josh Jacobs with his knee injury, Jaden Reed with his shoulder and foot injury, and Matthew Golden with the wrist injury, all listed as limited participation in practice today. So I'm with you. I think we see Jacobs. He probably, if it was up to him and they didn't have a short week here, I think he would have gutted it out and played last Sunday. I agree with you on that one. But good to see Emmanuel Wilson, honestly. I mean, Emmanuel Wilson, pretty good game. Pretty good game from him last week. So I think he's a rather nice backup running back for them. He gave him 100 yards. Josh Jacobs hasn't been churning out a lot of these 100-yard games as of late. And I don't think that Jacobs is bad or anything. I'm not slandering Jacobs, but it hasn't been the most explosive run game in Green Bay this year, which I think in this one, a probably not fully healthy Josh Jacobs, some of the issues that they've been having at guard, and the fact that you read off some of the stats about the Lions run defense. I had this one that the Lions allow the fewest yards after contact per running back rush attempt. Like not only do they kind of defend the run well from a line perspective, they rally and tackle. Their linebackers are playing really well right now. Kelvin Shepard, obviously a former NFL linebacker himself, he has these guys flying around back there. I don't think we're going to see, I think Josh Jacobs obviously still a fantasy starter. He's still a running back one. He always has a good chance to pop into the end zone here. But at the same time, I don't think that we're going to see one of these games where the Packers can just lean on the run. I guess the question, Ray, is Matt LaFleur going to see it that way? Because Matt LaFleur has played it very, very, very conservative of late. And I wonder if he looks at it as you do and as I do as well. We'll get into that in a little bit. If this is a pass-first matchup because LaFleur has played this thing so conservatively this year.
It's been a little, well, first of all, because Emmanuel Wilson is on the screen. Listen, I think Jacobs gets his customary work, but I also wouldn't be shocked if Wilson continued to get touches for Green Bay. Prior to Jacobs being out, I mean, he was getting some touches. He was involved in the offense week in and week out. So I am curious to see what it looks like with Jacobs maybe not 100% healthy and then pushing for the playoffs. Love what Emmanuel Wilson gave him last week. But yeah, what does LaFleur do? It's been what's the issue? Is it LaFleur and what he's done to call the plays and to manage the game? Or is it simply the fact that they don't have the bodies out there, Matt? They don't have a true, I got to cover it, respect them guy, snap in and snap out on the outside. Tucker Kraft is no longer there. This team has changed a lot. And we still have this, because the quarterback Jordan Love is pretty good, we still have this expectation for them, but it's much different without Tucker Kraft. So I think some of the criticism that LaFleur has received of late, it's a byproduct of who he's got out there. You got John Fitzpatrick's, Jacobs is banged up, Watson's working his way back from an ACL tear, Wicks is in and out of the lineup, and Romeo Doubs is just kind of Romeo Doubs. They're trying to figure this thing out still. So we'll talk about Detroit's offense. This could be one of those games where they say we're just going to try to limit the amount of time that they're on the field in their home space, and we just run the piss out of the ball this game.
It's a good point. And I wonder even if that's the approach here. I wonder if Emmanuel Wilson is still involved a little bit. I said he ran for 100 yards. I was like, when's the last time Josh Jacobs ran for 100 yards? He hasn't run for 100 yards all season. Emmanuel Wilson's 107 rushing yards is actually the most by a Packers running back this year. Josh Jacobs has not run for 100 yards in a game since about actually literally a calendar like 1 year
Wow.
ago on the calendar, November 24th 2024, against the 49ers in a 38-10 win. That's the last time we saw Josh Jacobs run for 100 yards. Now again, Josh Jacobs is still really good, and he has 95 yards. He's got 94 yards. He's got a 94-yard game more recently than that. But yeah, it's not exactly been this explosive season for Josh Jacobs. And again, some of that is, I think that Jacobs might actually benefit from having a little bit of work taken away from him. I know fantasy managers probably don't want to hear that, but he's basically just been the show. I wonder if a nice compliment from Emmanuel Wilson actually might help Josh Jacobs a little bit, especially while he's banged up here. So I wouldn't assume that Wilson, who I think has acquitted himself well, completely goes to the bench here. But I do want to talk a little bit about this Green Bay passing game, because while I'm with you that there's a good reason they've played it conservative with some of the injuries here and just this constant rotating cast of characters, and also just a little bit of the inconsistency from Love, the injuries on the offensive line. I mean, not having Jenkins at center and having the play that they've gotten from guards that they've invested in, I think has been problematic for the passing game overall. Yet, on the season, Jordan Love still ranks 4th in adjusted yards per attempt versus man coverage this year. He is up there with one of the most efficient quarterbacks when throwing against man coverage. That's a good matchup this week because the Lions play man coverage at the highest rate in the league on late downs at 65%, and they give up the 9th highest points per drop back according to fantasy points data. I'm going to say it off the top. If I cite a man coverage defense stat, zone coverage defense stat, it's from fantasy points data. That's good for the rest of the show. I'm not going to say per fantasy points data 50 times in the damn
Every
show.
time,
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm not going to do it every time. But so the Lions play a lot of man coverage. Jordan Love has been good throwing against man coverage this year.
Listen, the stat that I first hit you with, they're 4th worst, Detroit, 4th worst in the NFL at allowing fantasy points to the wide receiver position. 4th worst. And a lot of that comes from the fact you get out there and man, and you don't have the horses and the bodies to get it done. Yeah, you're probably going to get eaten up down the middle, over the top, and every which way in direction when you're running that. So listen, there are some pieces to this Green Bay offense that I've continued to talk about that I like, and I think some of the trends and the usage trends are leaning towards a certain Green Bay wide receiver, Matt, that you may touch on. But yeah, Jordan Love's going to probably have to throw the ball. You're probably going to have to throw the ball in this one unless that defense shows up again. And I got some more stats and data on that and when we get to Detroit's offense.
Yes, as always with the Packers, as you're alluding to, it's trying to find the right wide receiver, which has been a struggle for years now. Ever since Devontae Adams left town, it's constantly Sauron's eye is moving in terms of where is the priority in this Green Bay Packers room. Tucker Kraft was the man beater for this team, which always makes me sad anytime we have to talk about Tucker Kraft at this point. But he averaged 4.16 yards per route run against man coverage this year. That is easily, far and away, the best on the team. He obviously is not playing in this game, so who else is it going to be? You mentioned it. I think I'm curious what the Trinity says about this player, Christian Watson, since he's been back. 2.63 yards per route run against man coverage this year. He turned in a season-high 92% route participation last week. I don't think, Ray, that the plan was Christian Watson 92% route participation just a month after returning from this ACL injury that he tore in January of this year. And yet, because of the injuries, and because I think Watson has played some really good football, especially in contested catch situations, which I kind of criticized him for in his second season. He was really a bit of a journey there. He's had great hands and tight coverage this year, so I'm cursing him. He's almost certainly going to have a bad drop when everybody's watching on Thanksgiving. Sorry about that, Christian. But yeah, I think he has become, at least for now, the most trustworthy Packers wide receiver.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. He has, since coming back, he's been consistently solid with opportunity and room to grow from a usage standpoint. Number one on the team in usage. You can see that on the screen right there. Trinity kind of looks at all those things: targets, first downs. It's Christian Watson, followed by Romeo Doubs, followed by Dontavian Wicks. All those guys are below the line, which means they should be producing a little bit higher based on that usage. But yeah, like, he's getting the air yards. He's top 5 in the NFL since his time coming back in yards per reception. And when they do target him, he moves the sticks and he moves the chains for this team. He's the element of the big play. So when you're talking about a defense, fourth worst, allowing fantasy points to the wide receiver position, Matt, you also said not good man coverage. Like, this is a spot where Christian Watson should be able to find some success versus this Lions secondary. He has been, for a player who tore his ACL this calendar year, to come back and to get the opportunity, and whether it's because of necessity or just his overall raw talent that he has, I mean, hats off to Christian Watson. And he is one of those guys, if you're looking for a ceiling, right? He's going to get an end zone target. He's going to get a deep ball, 1 or 2 a game. Like, it's happening. And there's some meat that's been left on the bone here with some misconnects, some disconnect with Jordan Love. So I love the trend and the path that Watson is on, and I follow the usage. He's their team's most utilized player since week 8.
Still just 48% rostered in Yahoo leagues as of Tuesday at around 5 p.m. as we're taping this right now. And I have a team, Ray, that about 2 months ago, I was feeling so awesome about the wide receiver room. I had Roma Dunze crushing it. I had Travis Hunter whenever he was ready to get ramped up. I had Garrett Wilson beating his ADP. I had Jordan Addison back from suspension, immediately plug and play. Well, if you can tell some of those names I've read off there, 2 of the guys ain't playing football anymore. Jordan Addison might as well not be playing football, and Roma Dunze's had a little bit of a quiet stretch here lately as well. I've been plugging in Christian Watson the last few weeks. I picked him up off waivers, and hey, like, he's somebody that I'm kind of happy to have as a wide receiver 3 candidate right now. And I think people this week, if you are in a tough spot at wide receiver, or you just want to watch one of your fantasy players while you're enjoying the mimosa before Thanksgiving, meal gets kicked off there, I think Christian Watson's in a pretty good spot here. We will see if a guy like Matthew Golden makes a dent here. Last time he played, he was a sub 40% route participation player, just not healthy right now. Wicks is a part-time player that I think is playing well in his role, but obviously not a fantasy viable guy. I don't know if Jaden Reed is going to play in this game. We obviously don't have a report on that right now, but it would be tough, right? I mean, even if he's there, I don't think he'll be like Christian Watson, immediately a full-time guy.
Yeah, no way you could trust that. At this stage, what are we, week 13? So fantasy playoffs start. Is that something you take into consideration too, right? If you just think about this game, Lions, Packers, great offense in Detroit. We know Green Bay's defense is good. We'll talk about it, but you got 1 week into the fantasy playoffs. Like, I need upside here. I don't need Jaden Reed figuring it out, getting worked back into the offense when fantasy playoffs start in a week, or for some people, maybe this week. So yeah, this point, it's got to be the upside play. If I'm starting a Packers wide receiver, they've got to have some touchdown upside, some big play upside. The one that you really, really trust or can trust in that department is Christian Watson. I would not fool around with Jaden Reed this week.
I will say, when he gets back, whenever we see him back and like fully ramped up, I am at least excited about Jaden Reed back in this offense, because I think he is sorely, sorely missed. He's another man coverage beater. So if he plays in this matchup, we could see like a couple big plays from him, but definitely somebody that should not be sub 40% roster as he is right now. He should be on benches in case he gets back for this playoff run, and he is good. Man. Yeah. I'm such a big fan of Jaden Reed. It looked like he was starting to really take another step this year as an individual player. It's just, how much is he going to be on the field? That's the question. So yeah, we know it's going to be Romeo Doubs. It's going to be Christian Watson. And right now things have been trending towards Christian Watson's way. Okay, let's talk about when the Lions have the ball here. I found this interesting stat that I kind of want to throw out just to do the table set here in terms of this Packers defense versus this Lions offense. We know the Lions offense, I wouldn't say they're boring to talk about, Ray, but from a fantasy standpoint, we do kind of know who's going to get the ball and who the priority players are. There's not some goofy third receiver that we're thinking about starting here. Sam Laporta is no longer in our lives, so we're not even really playing one of these tight ends. It's pretty much Jahmyr Gibbs, it's St. Brown, and Jameson Williams. But the question is, can this Lions offense, which you're always excited about when they're at home in the dome, indoors, can they get over on this Packers defense? Well, one interesting thing, we know the Lions love their play action, right? Goff is 3rd in yards per attempt on play action this year among quarterbacks. The Packers have actually given up the lowest yards per target in the NFL versus play action this year. And when you just watch some of their play against like watch the plays against play action. You watch some of the stuff that they do when they get in breaking routes. They close those windows real fast. So it will be a very interesting strength on strength matchup when we watch Jared Goff try to throw against this defense.
Yeah, this is again, it's sort of it's tough to separate the eye test, what our eyes just told us, because we just saw Jahmyr Gibbs go Super Saiyan mode, right? 219 yards on 15 carries. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown after catching 2 passes the week prior to getting back over 90-something receiving yards and a touchdown. He was incredible. The overall reality is this is a very difficult Packers defense, especially against the wide receiver position, only allowing about 23 points per game to wide receivers. About 23 points per game to wide receivers. They're number 1 in the NFL versus slot wide receivers, allowing about 4 PPR points per game to slot wide receivers. Over the last 3 weeks, that's tightened up to an absurd 0.64 PPR points per game to the slot wide receiver position, best in the league. They've already played the Lions one time, and in that game, I had to just go back. And I know it was week 1, so I was like, all right, how much do you want to take into consideration? Well, the Lions didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. David Montgomery, 25 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 19 yards. Sam Laporta actually led the way with 79 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 45 yards on 4 catches. Gibbs had 10 receptions for 31 yards. J-Mo had 23 yards. Jared Goff threw the ball 39 times for 225. So this Packers defense versus the wide receiver position, very, very tough. Very, very tough, right? Against the run, they're equally as tough. They're a top 10 run defensive unit. They've only allowed 20 10-plus yard runs this season, which is 3rd fewest in the NFL. So when we're thinking about the big plays, the Gibbs ripping off those chunk runs against the Giants, this team has allowed 20 10-plus yard runs all season long, 3rd fewest in the NFL. So where do they find the explosives at? This is one of those things where it's how much of this, what looked like last week offensively, especially in the second half, this unstoppable force of the Detroit Lions offense versus this immovable object, which is the Green Bay Packers defense. This should be a good game. All the data says Green Bay's got the advantage on defensively in this matchup and already won their first head-to-head matchup. Where are you at with this one?
Yeah, that slot defense stat for the Green Bay Packers is really it's like almost alarming to hear, and I think it lines up well with what I was mentioning in terms of the play action stuff, because you think about it, like they just close those windows over the middle of the field, where typically with play action, you're either throwing deeper out routes, you're throwing over the middle of the field. And so sometimes that is going to be to your power slot receiver, like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type. But obviously you're not benching St. Brown, of course. And,
no.
And he's had his drop problems the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about another great receiver who's had some drop issues when we get to the second segment here. But obviously St. Brown's had this, but those can correct themselves at any point. And he's too good of a player for that to last. I don't think it will last. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big game here, because he's just that good, right? So, and he obviously plays a little bit outside as well too. So I think the question really is, what do we do with Jameson Williams in this matchup, right? Like 3 targets, 0 catches, had a couple drops in this game as well. He left some opportunities on the field, and that's a part of this. But Jameson Williams, it's a bad matchup. It's an island game, 0 points last week. Do you have any conviction in a guy like Jameson Williams with all of those things hanging over our head?
Absolutely not. After I pumped Jameson Williams up all damn last week, talked about him on this show, wrote about him in another piece on Yahoo, and he went out there and offered me. Just 0, 0, 0, 0 across the board. No, I don't feel good about it. I do think they do try to correct that to some degree. Get him an early touch, right? Try to get the ball to Jameson Williams, but I've got low conviction. I feel like that will just happen, and just that's normally what happens. You go 0 catch, we'll try to throw you the ball. This is an incredibly difficult matchup for the wide receiver position. I don't trust him this week. I do not trust him this week. I've got more faith at because it's funny because he and Christian Watson to a degree kind of occupy the same role, even if Watson's the one. They kind of do some of the same things. I trust him a lot more in this matchup than I do Jameson Williams. I would play Christian Watson over Jameson Williams this week. I don't have any conviction this week for him. This is a tough matchup, and this was a guy who was not involved at all. I think they try to get him the ball, but would I recommend starting him? Like, I would not personally feel good with it this week. No, not versus Green Bay.
I think I'll take the other side of this one, almost because of what you said there in terms of they're going to try to get him the ball. Like, Dan Campbell is not going to allow this to happen 2 weeks in a row. And like I said, Jameson did get some opportunities last week that he messed up on. So obviously that's the JMO experience. He's a bit of a volatile guy in his own right. Just when you think you can trust him, he puts that 0 in your lineup, and it will be. I only have one Jameson Williams team, and thankfully it's my Guillotine team, so like it's stacked enough that I can probably put him on the bench, but I can still feel that he's going to get a 30 spot. It's just to me, I think we'll see one of those early touches, try to get him in the game, like a screen on the first drive, a little drag route on the first drive where they clear space and try to get him running after the catch, build some of that confidence back up. I think we see that from Jameson Williams, and is that enough for it to make him a fantasy starter? I don't know, but again, we'll end it on this, Ray. Do you think this game ends up being a high scoring affair? Some of the stuff we talked about, the Packers offense. Obviously, we know the Lions offense is good. Do you think this ends up being a high scoring game?
I do not. I've already hammered the under on this one. I don't think we're getting 49 points. The Green Bay offense has not been great of late. They don't have a lot of explosives laying around this offense on the outside or in the backfield. And, their defense is still one of the best defenses in the NFL against this Lions team, who they don't look like this offense is the same. I mean, hell, with Green Bay, we were questioning this Detroit team for a full half last week versus the Giants. So I don't think it's a high scoring game. I would be taking the under on this one all day, every day. I think this is a difficult matchup for both sides for what they like to do well. And this turns into a physical game inside of Detroit's home stadium.
I think you're right. Lions defense really underrated too. They've got some guys coming back in the secondary. They're kind of always a little banged up there, but they play so physical. And even if they allow some big plays to wide receivers, I'm just not sure the Packers right now have the juice on offense. So I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a fun one to watch, but I don't know if we're seeing like 50 points in this one. So probably going to get that wrong. We shall see what happens. Okay, we're going to go to a break here. When we come back, we're going to continue to preview some of these Thanksgiving games. We'll get into Cowboys and Chiefs right after this quick break. All right, we are back. We're continuing to preview the Thanksgiving slate here. Let's talk the next game up here, which another really fun contest. Kansas City Chiefs going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. The Chiefs are 3-point road favorites. Over-under is 52. Let's talk about some of the stakes here. According to the New York Times playoff predictor, the Cowboys playoff odds with a win, they jump to 22%. They drop down to 7% if they lose this game, so we can pretty much forget about it if they lose this game. They can't really afford really any losses the rest of the way. Meanwhile, Kansas City, their playoff odds jump up to 73% if they win this game. If they lose this game, it's down to 46%. So not only does this look like a really fun game on paper, Ray, it looks like a really meaningful game for both sides. Let's once again start off with the visiting team here. Let's talk about when Kansas City has the ball. Just 2 injury notes before I throw it to you. Number 1, Isaiah Pacheco will be back for this game. So they get their starting running back. Number 2, however, to kind of stick with that run game theme, their star offensive guard, Trey Smith, is not going to play in this game. It will once again be Mike Caliendo in his spot, which did not go so well. Last week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. So with that backdrop, Ray, what are we looking at when the Chiefs have the ball?
That's a big loss for Kansas City. Trey Smith, losing him versus what I'll talk about has been a revamped Dallas defense is not ideal for Kansas City, but what a resilient win from them last Sunday, because that was do or die as well. I mean, this one really, they got to keep going, but they had to beat Indianapolis, and they came back, and there wasn't a lot. There was 1 touchdown scored and just a bunch of field goals for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think for the offensive side of the ball, when you got 15 back there, when you've got Patrick Mahomes, you got a shot, right? You've got
Yeah.
I mean, there was plays in the game last week where he was trying to run the ball. There was no sliding. He was just ducking his head saying, I got to get it. So anytime you got 15 back there, you got a chance. Rashee Rice is going to be problematic for whomever they play. We saw him ball out 140 yards in the matchup. They're going to have to connect on deep shots, and they have not been able to do that. They're going to have to hit the deep play, and whether it doesn't matter who it's been against, and it's not just this season. This has been a problem with Kansas City for the past couple of years. If they can't hit on the deep ball, it just makes things incredibly difficult. And we saw Kareem Hunt. Kudos to him. And it's 3 yards an attempt, but without Kareem Hunt, they don't win that game. 30 carries, he gets over 100 yards. But if you watched it, when they needed a first down, he's shaking off defenders and picking up the 2. Like, he is truly engineering that thing along in Kansas City outside of Rashee Rice. So I think it's going to be a lot of what we've already seen. This is a tough task for Kansas City. It's a 2-game sample size, Matt. I don't want to overreact. But since the trade, the addition of Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson and getting DeMarvion Overshown back, getting Siobhan Revel and Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson back, all we've said is if this defense can just be average along with what they have offensively, they can be a problem. Well, that defensive front is a big-time problem. Big-time problem for opposing offensive lines, especially those that are hurting on the offensive front with the addition of Quinnen Williams there, Ezeraku off the edge. DeMarvion Overshown, the linebacker, serviceable enough, and the secondary is coming together. This defense is drastically improved from giving up almost 400 yards per game, second worst in the NFL, to right now over the past 2 games, 287 yards, 7th best in the NFL. Before the trade, they were allowing about 143 rushing yards per game. 2-game sample size, they're giving up 45 yards per game. Quinnen Williams is a superstar type player in the middle that can rush from the edge. I think Kansas City, they have their work cut out for them offensively because this Dallas defense is much improved.
I think I'm with you there. Look, all the caveats apply about 2-game sample, and really, is it a 2-game sample here for the Dallas Cowboys? Because one of those games was against the Raiders, so maybe it's like a 1.5-game sample against NFL competition for the Dallas Cowboys. But at the same time, they were still good against the Eagles. I mean, they weren't so good on the back end necessarily. A.J. Brown had his moments. DeVonta Smith had his moments, which, I mean, that's going to happen. Those guys are obviously great players. Even if Brown has taken a step back this year, he's still a really good receiver in the way that he was able to get loose on some of the in-breakers that they used him on finally. That was good to see for the Philadelphia Eagles. But still, the Cowboys came out of that one, and they gave up. They spotted him 21 points, as Shoddy said. It wasn't all defense either, but I mean, you know, it is what it is. They go up 21 points, and then they slow it down, though. So that was good to see. And you mentioned Quinnen Williams, dude. He has been unbelievable. Quinnen Williams, according to Next Gen Stats, 13 pressures, 1.5 sacks, 22.4% pressure rate, 3rd best in the NFL among players with 20-plus pass rushes in this span in his first 2 games with the Dallas Cowboys. 5 or more pressures in each game with Dallas after failing to reach that mark in any game with the Jets this season. He's been everything they could have possibly wanted and more. And in this game, if it's Kingsley Suamataia, who's I think played fine on balance this year, but he's one of the guards, and then Caliendo's starting at the other guard spot, Williams looks like he's set up to be really disruptive once again in this matchup.
Listen, I think so. Trace, and we talk about that guy. That's a big loss for Kansas City. That's a big loss. And yeah, it's 2 games, but I mean, if you've watched this defense you can tell, like, it doesn't, whether it's versus the Raiders or the Eagles, like, there is clearly significant disruption happening up front. I mean, hell, the Eagles every offensive line is banged up at this point, right? When you're rolling out Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn at linebacker, like, you're not gonna stop anybody. When you don't have your safeties back there, they got these safeties back. They immediately cut the other guys that they had back there. We got some health back. Get out of here. You're gone. We don't even need you anymore. So listen, y'all can take it however you want to take it. 2-game sample size, 1.5 game sample size, 1 game sample size. Quinnen Williams on this defensive line with Overshown and Logan Wilson at the linebacking core and a healthy secondary, this defense is better. Kansas City has their work cut out for them because A, they still can't run the damn ball, whether it's Pacheco or Hunt. B, on the outside, they can't hit the deep plays. C, you tell me I need to be worried about 37-year-old Travis Kelce? It's the Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes show. If they can't execute that, they will not win this game. They will not win this game.
Look at the confidence just dripping off Ray Garvin right
Oozing.
now. Cowboys Nation.
Never a doubt.
Producer Colin, I'm sure in the green room, is going absolutely berserk listening to this Cowboys hype from his guy Ray Garvin here. And look, I think I'm pretty much with you there that this defense is objectively better. But like I said, it's all about, can they go from 31st in the league? Can they and can they be like 22nd? That is a huge improvement, even if they're the 22nd best defense in the league. And when Quinnen Williams is hot, I think that they can be even an average defense over the course of a game. You know, some rough moments, some really great moments equals out to about an average unit. That would be huge for Dallas if they can get to that level. And obviously that is the air that Quinnen Williams holds right now. The thing is, though, I do think, Ray, if they are able to block it up, if Kansas City is able to protect in this game, I think there will be a lot of favorable matchups for the Kansas City receivers in this game in particular and the passing game because a couple of different reasons. One, we saw last week, Ollie Connolly had this post that the man versus zone splits are once again really stark in this game against the Colts last week. So 59% dropbacks against zone, 41% against man. On their plays against zone coverage, 74% completion rate, 100.2 passer rating. On their plays against man coverage, 48% completion rate, 45 passer rating. So huge split there, and that has been the case all year. I've been yapping about it all season. I wrote a whole column on it last week. They were able to play against man coverage in this Colts game, and that was really all they needed to eventually win the game. But it's still primarily they're feasting off zone coverage. Rashee Rice this year, 3.44 yards per route run against zone coverage. He's been insane when they're getting into those zone coverage situations. Now, the question is, what does Dallas play? Well, even if we're just isolating this over the last 2 weeks, this magical little stretch here where they've become this good defense when they faced the Eagles and a half of an NFL team in the Las Vegas Raiders, they've still played zone coverage at the 4th highest rate in the league. I mean, they gave up the 9th highest points per drop back in terms of where their zone coverage looks. So if the Chiefs are able to block it up, I think we will see a good game from Mahomes. We'll see a good game from Rashee Rice. And then obviously some of the other kind of ancillary players fitting in there.
Well, what do you think about those ancillary players, though? I agree with you. Rashee Rice should eat regardless. Like that's Mahomes. He should be great in this one. Like I don't think there's a corner out there that can keep. You know what? I don't think there's a corner on Dallas that can keep up with Xavier Worthy either, or probably Tyquan Thornton, maybe even Hollywood Brown. The issue is, can they hit those shots? As much as people dog out Jalen Hurts, he was able to convert some of those deep shots on Dallas. Devontae Smith down the field, pushing the ball vertically to A.J. Brown. He converted those. The issue is Kansas City, their inability to do that, their inability to connect on some of those deep shots. So I don't care what the defense does. Rice should be able to play very well. Rice should have a good game. We'll see about Mahomes. We'll see. I don't know about that one. I think Mahomes might be able to distribute the ball to Rice. I don't think he's going to be able to run around on Dallas like he has other teams. And if he can't convert the deep shot, I don't know how he gets his points unless you tell me Rice goes 3 tuds. If he gets in his zone 3 times, then I mean, that'd be great. But I'm not trusting the deep shot. I'm not trusting it right now not because they can't get it, not because they shouldn't be able to do it. It's because they haven't been able to do it for 3 damn years.
All that is really fair. All that is really fair. I think that one thing to be interested in this game, you mentioned like which of these corners can hang with which of these receivers. Like for Rashee Rice, doesn't even matter, bro. Like he's gonna be covered by your boy Jack Sanborn and Murray and stuff like that. He might catch 10 balls in this game. He might legitimately catch 10 passes in this game. I don't know about Worthy. I don't know about Hollywood Brown, but you know who actually does kind of have like a good schematic matchup, at least, is Tyquan Thornton, who did not catch a pass in this game against the Colts. And Chiefs fans are like, why aren't we using this guy more? And I kind of agree. I'm not that I'm some big Tyquan Thornton stan, but I think he should play over Hollywood Brown. Like, enough. We know what Brown is. Okay. Like I'd like to see a little bit more of Tyquan Thornton. The Cowboys in this 2-game stretch here where they've turned it around on defense, 9th highest points per dropback allowed in single high, 5th lowest in 2 high, which typically the Chiefs don't get a lot of single high, but when they have gotten it, Tyquan Thornton leads the team in yards per out run against single high, 9 catches, 229 yards. When they see that, he's been the guy that's gotten those shot plays. So it's definitely not a fantasy play. Because, look, we're showing the projections on the screen right now. Love it when I'm hyping up a guy who the projection is 1 catch for 12 yards. It's probably not a fantasy play, but maybe if you're looking at props, something like that, any little pick-em situation, hey, maybe there it's a over on the yards. It's a longest reception type thing. We see a big play out of Tyquan Thornton this week. That's kind of what I think they'll need to keep up with this Cowboys offense, Ray, because we'll get to them right after you kind of respond here. But, bro, the Cowboys offense is cooking right now.
We talked about this, it was months ago. I can't remember the actual show, but it was right before Rice came back, and we were talking about Tyquan Thornton. He was pretty good when he was involved in this offense. Like it seemed to work well with Tyquan Thornton. I'm sitting back right now and like, is he not the second best receiver on this team behind damn Rashee Rice? Like, why is he not out there some more? Like, why do we keep dealing? Why is Hollywood Brown out there? Xavier Worthy, I love him. I had so much hope for this season. It was derailed on the 3rd play of the game. It's just been derailed. There's no connection there. He's just out there, and if he doesn't get his deep shot, then he's getting 27 yards, right? I would look, if Tyquan Thornton, he would be a great anytime touchdown play, right? We're not professional bettors over here or nothing like that, but
of course,
I do think he could get deep against this Cowboys team, especially if they play that mess and throw Malik Hooker out there in the middle. Again, the Chiefs just need to convert it, man. Like some of these shots that we're talking about, Matt, these aren't like tight window throws, right? Like he's throwing it 50 yards downfield and it's got to be pinpoint act. The dude's wide open, man. Just get it in the vicinity of the receiver and let them go get it. So I know he's not going to play. He's projected for 1 catch, 12 yards, but I think schematically they probably should use Thornton a little bit more. They probably should.
Yeah. Anytime touchdown, by the way, on BetMGM, plus 800 for Tyquan Thornton. The following players have better odds to score a touchdown according to BetMGM. Producer Colin's favorite player, Ryan Flournoy, Robert Tonyan, Kavontae Turpin, the Chiefs defense, the Cowboys defense. I mean, yeah, let's do it, dude. I love this. We're calling the shot right now. I don't know if it's a touchdown, but I'm saying big play for Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton, at least a 20-plus yard reception on the day for Tyquan Thornton against this Cowboys defense. There we go. That's why you're tuning into the show to hear about Tyquan Thornton as you're like halfway through your Thanksgiving meal, maybe a little bit of maybe a little bit of overserved at that point. You're like, hey,
right
there he is, Tyquan Thornton. Love to see it. All right, let's talk about the offense that everybody wants to hear about. That is the Dallas Cowboys offense. And Ray, I'll get it started here with a note on these wide receivers, which has been a big talking point this week, obviously. Both Cowboys wide receivers are top 8 in yards and first downs per route run versus man coverage this season. George Pickens is also 5th and 4th in yards and first downs, respectively, versus zone coverage this year. CeeDee Lamb is a little bit behind him. And I love this stat, by the way, because it actually calls into an email we got today from a shout out to Dustin at Good Ecosystem, sent in an audio question about these Cowboys wide receivers. You know, and Dustin, appreciate the email. Not going to play it here because, buddy, it was kind of a long one. And, you know, we're not going to, this isn't the mailbag show. It was a long one. And honestly, it was basically the premise of the question was, wanted me to kind of say, hey, weigh in on the discussion of who's better, George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb. Is George Pickens actually better than CeeDee Lamb? Number one, Dustin, I did listen to it. It sounded like you had already convinced yourself that to the answer to that question. So what do you need me for, dude? You got eyeballs. You tell me what you think. I think, clearly think that George Pickens is better than CeeDee Lamb. And Ray, you and I were talking about this before the show. What's the answer to this question?
I think they are both top 10 wide receivers right now. And I'm not going to say George Pickens is better than CeeDee Lamb. I mean, we're talking about a guy who had 1,800 yards a few years ago. But here's what I'll say. Here's how I say it, Matt. We talked about this offense being like the NFC's version of the Cincinnati Bengals, right? We said that before the season started. This could be a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins situation. I think that George Pickens is closer to CeeDee Lamb than T. Higgins is Jamar Chase. Okay. So I'll leave it at that. I think George Pickens, his skill set and ability to play receiver is closer to CeeDee Lamb than what T. Higgins is compared to Jamar Chase. I think these are both two incredible wide receivers, but that's kind of how I sum it up, Matt.
I think that's perfect way to say it, and it makes a ton of sense because number one, CeeDee Lamb, little bit not as good as Jamar Chase, and I think George Pickens, this version of George Pickens, is absolutely better than T. Higgins, who's a damn fine receiver in his own right. Now, here to answer the question, I mean, right now in this moment in time, who is playing better? It's George Pickens. George Pickens is playing better than CeeDee Lamb right now. I think CeeDee Lamb would tell you that. CeeDee Lamb talking to the media today, hey, we got to work out the problems. He's like, and we all know what the problems is. I got to catch the ball. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, but that was basically what he said. I got to catch the ball. And yeah, 100%. He said catch the something ball, but this is a family program. So we know what CeeDee Lamb needs to do. He needs to catch that football. But I mean, to say that George Pickens is better than CeeDee Lamb, again, right now in this moment, it is definitely true. On balance, I mean, people can try to gaslight me all they want that, no, George Pickens has always been this player and just he was in the steel. He's not always been the player. He's not always played at the level he is playing right now. He has gotten better and better every single year of his NFL career, and right now he's peaking. But to say in the middle of last season or even 2 years ago, oh, George Pickens is better than CeeDee Lamb, that would have been crazy. Like, Lamb has the resume, the body of work, I think, to still be considered. If I was to sit here and draft wide receivers to be on my real football team, I would take CeeDee Lamb ahead of George Pickens. But Pickens is playing better right now, which just goes to your point, dude, that these are two unbelievable wide receivers that I think the Cowboys will lock up and keep together for the long term.
Matt, let me ask you this about this, because I know you remember the graphic, because you and I talked about the fit of Pickens in Dallas with Lamb's skill set. I think the blessing in disguise for George Pickens, and probably the best thing that's happened to him, was when CeeDee Lamb got hurt, they had to deploy him in a lot of different ways. Some of the things that he's asked to do right now for Dallas is not what he was asked to do in Pittsburgh. Like, he's running over the middle of the field. He's doing and I think Dallas trusts him. The first couple of games when even I was a little bit like, I don't really like, all they were doing was throwing deep shots to him. It was just go route, and they would not connect on him. He'd draw pass interference. But once Lamb was injured and they had kind of no option and choice but to do that, they're like, hey, he can run a slant route. He can run an over route. He can run a corner route. Like, his route tree and the way that he's been deployed in Dallas, it's shifted, because them first few games, it was just 9 route, go ball, go ball, go ball. And that's how they were using him, just kind of what he did in Pittsburgh. And it's changed. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, but it's changed.
If anything, too, well, number one, I agree with your point that like the over routes and the dig routes, that's something he was not doing in Pittsburgh that they are asking him to do this year, and he's been incredible. And that's been an obvious area of growth for him. But like the slant route, I talked about this kind of ad nauseum this week because Tom Brady kept pointing out that that's George Pickens' best route. That's something he started to develop last season, and it's carried over to this year. So if anything, Ray, I think it wasn't that they changed his usage when CeeDee Lamb went out, because they still kind of deployed him as a pure outside guy. It was just, hey, we have to make this guy the featured player of the offense, and that built the chemistry between him and Dak Prescott, which has just been on point, because you couldn't have said this any better. In the first couple games of the season, he's kind of running a sacrificial X route tree. He's kind of just, it's a lot of goes, it's a lot of clearance space for CD and Jake Ferguson. And then when CD's out, it's like, well, all right, our number one guy, we're not going to take George Pickens out of X, but he's going to be our X and he's going to be our number one read in most of the progressions. And they realize, oh my God, not only is this guy so good and he's playing great football, Dak Prescott and him have a near flawless chemistry and connection. So that has been really encouraging to see. And in this matchup in particular, I think it'll be really interesting when we come back to that man coverage stuff where both of these guys are good, but George Pickens has been so incredible. The Chiefs play man coverage on 43% of their late downs this season. That is the 11th highest rate in the league. And the question there is, who is Trent McDuffie going to be covering? Because McDuffie, their best corner by far, 5.1 yards per target in coverage this season, according to Next Gen Stats. That's the fourth fewest among 87 cornerbacks, targeted at least 30 times. Does he track CeeDee Lamb in this game? Because he's not taken more than 38% of his snaps at left outside, right outside, or slot corner? Or does he kind of cover, because he's that little move around guy, he plays in the nickel sometimes. That's obviously more Lamb's role, whereas Pickens is on the perimeter. So I could see a bounce back game for Lamb. I could see another big game for Pickens. I think this matches up pretty well with what the Cowboys like to do on offense.
And I do think if he were going to travel and I were to project him traveling with anybody, it would be CeeDee Lamb. Let's not forget, Lamb did have 75 yards. He dropped a touchdown and dropped like two other passes where if he just catches the ball, he's over 100 yards and a touchdown himself.
Yeah.
And he led the team in targets still. So if McDuffie's going to follow anybody, I think it would be CeeDee Lamb. This is a tough matchup for Dallas. This is a tough matchup for the Cowboys. That's my squad. I love them. I have fun with them on the show. But this run defense is no joke for Kansas City. And we saw them completely neutralize the best running back in football, Jonathan Taylor, last week. They've only allowed one 100-yard rusher on the season. They are a top 10 rushing unit, period. And then against the pass, they're no joke either. Fantasy points allowed for this defense. They're top 10 defense versus wide receivers as far as fantasy scoring. They're a little more generous to the slot receiver, but not much. They are very, very tough against outside wide receivers. This is a tough defense. And conversely, I forgot to drop this data point in there for the Cowboys section, which will just speak more to our anytime touchdown play for Tyquan Thornton. They are dead last versus outside receivers, allowing 27 points per game to outside wide receivers, the Dallas Cowboys are. So deep shots should be available to them as well. But this is a tough defense, this run defense for Kansas City. I do not think Javonte Williams is going to find a lot of success. They are 8th best in explosive runs allowed. Only 26 carries this season have gone 10-plus yards against Kansas City. They're holding opponents to 97 rushing yards a game, 8th best in the league. So Dak's going to have to get it done through the air. I think he's going to have to get it done through the air. This is another game, 52 points. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to be this massive fireworks shootout in Dallas. That's high with how well this Kansas City defense plays overall. And they gave up those 2 early touchdowns to Indianapolis, and they were locked down after that. They gave up them 2 early ones, and that was it after halftime. So difficult matchup for the Dallas Cowboys, no doubt.
Yeah, really excited to watch this one, and I hope you're wrong about the points. I think I could see this one being a back and forth.
You see this one going over? Yeah, I'm taking the under, Matt. I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under on that one. I'm taking the under.
All right, well, I can't wait to watch that one. Also can't wait to watch the final Thanksgiving game. Really good for the nightcap here. AFC North matchup. Bengals at Ravens. Ravens are 7-point home favorites. Over-under is another beefy one here, 52 points. Vegas is expecting a high-scoring Thanksgiving Day. Ray Garvin, not so sure about that. We have some high stakes in this one as well. If the Ravens win this game, according to the New York Times playoff predictor, they jump to 90% chance to make the postseason. They dropped to merely 73% with a loss. So Ravens obviously can do a lot to lock up the AFC North, continue to down their momentum here, which is crazy considering they were 1-5 at one point this season. But that is how this division and their season have gone. Let's talk about when the Bengals have the ball first, because I actually did not have many notes here, Ray, because I mean Joe Burrow's coming back. That's great, awesome. We love to see Joe Burrow coming back. But we kind of know what the Bengals offense is. They're not going to have T. Higgins in this one. They are going to have Jamar Chase back from, as you say, allegedly, Spitgate. The only note I had here is that the Bengals have had a lot of success running the ball lately, much more than they did to start the season. But the Ravens are the fifth best defense in success rate on running back runs allowed since week 8. But they have given up some explosives. 14% explosive rushing rate leads the NFL in this span. So they're not really allowing you to grind it out, but they are allowing some big plays on the ground, so we'll see from a Chase Brown perspective, they were able to establish that run game.
Yeah, I mean, when you're just looking at fantasy scoring, they're 12th worst against the running back positions. So we'll see. Chase Brown's played well. Like, Chase Brown's played some pretty really damn good ball of late. And those explosives, that's what he can do. That's exactly what he can do. Where you attack Baltimore is with the wide receiver position. Baltimore's still 10th worst in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position, giving up about 31 PPR points per game to wide receivers. And honestly, in this matchup where I don't think technically, I think Cincinnati is like, are they officially out of it? Are they officially out of it, or are they still mathematically inside of the playoff hunt, Matt?
I believe they mathematically alive, but they have a less than 1% chance according to the New York Times prediction model.
Well, they bring Joe Burrow back. I think the consolidation of targets will help Jamar Chase. Jamar had a week off. It wasn't because he was hurt, wasn't because of an ankle, and we know what he's historically done against the Ravens. This Ravens defense, the secondary is not very good. Again, 10th worst against the wide receiver position specifically. Jamar Chase, we're talking about Rashee Rice, 10 targets. I'm not even joking. Jamar Chase should be a 15-plus target game in this one versus Baltimore. It should be 50. Oh, I don't want to go too crazy and say 20. I'm going to give him that Michael Wilson target share. He should get about 50. If Michael Wilson can go out there and give me 15 in back-to-back weeks, then Jamar Chase with a week off, he should be able to compete with the great Michael Wilson. So I'm going to say 15 minimum targets for Chase. But that's how they're probably going to have to do it, Matt. Even with all the data and what they're allowing on the ground, I don't think this is going to be the Chase Brown legacy game. They're going to have to throw the ball, and I do think Joe Burrow being back, get it out quick. He's got eyes for one man and one man only. That is Uno. He's back. I think Jamar Chase has a monster game versus Baltimore. Monster game.
Pat Thorman from Establish a Run. We're showing the post on the screen right here. Jamar Chase faced the Ravens without T. Higgins last November. 17 targets, so more than the great Michael Wilson. 11 catches, 264 yards, and 3 touchdowns in that game. So if you want to get in on the action, again, if we're looking at BetMGM there, 100-plus yards for Jamar Chase, plus 120. 100 plus 100 over 125 yards, plus 275. Over 150, it's available for plus 600. So, I mean, my God, look at that.
Ladder that bad boy up. Matt, I'm taking it every level. Ladder. 150 plus 600? Oh, yeah, sign me up.
Oh,
I like
man. The Tyquan Thornton Jamar Chase parlay for all the prizes. What a time to be alive. So that's the Bengals offense. Otherwise, again, it'll be interesting to watch a guy like Mitchell Tinsley, who I'm surprised no one's asked me to chart Mitchell Tinsley yet. Haven't gotten that request. I get a request about every damn player in the NFL, but he's a rather interesting guy on Cincinnati's roster. He's somebody that could be a name to note. It'll never be Jermaine Burton. We know that at this point. It'll never, ever, ever be Jermaine Burton. What a knucklehead. But yeah, so we'll be monitoring that situation from the Mitchell Tinsley perspective. Is the only thing I'm kind of watching in this game. Mike Gesicki maybe for desperate at tight end, but I think that's getting a little bit too cute against this defense that's really short up their middle of the field coverage. Let's talk about when the Ravens have the ball, because the Ravens not been good lately. Lamar Jackson, I pointed this out with Boone yesterday. His worst and 8th worst games from an EPA per dropback perspective, and his 2 lowest scoring fantasy games since 2023 have come in the last 2 games. The Browns and the Jets game. They've been some of his worst games we've ever seen from him, and yet he gets to play this Bengals defense? Is it enough? The Bengals defense and everything that they do wrong, is it enough for Lamar Jackson and this Ravens passing game to get right?
Listen, there were some stunning stats that I found about this damn Bengals defense that I had to go through the game logs just to make sure True Media had their stuff together. Let's start with Lamar. Like, that's the big question is,
okay,
what's up with Lamar? Like, and I just put that question out there the other day, and everybody from like the Ravens social media community, they said he's dealing with a litany of ailments. And I believe something else popped up today. You could watch him on the field. He doesn't want to run. He doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. And I just think offensively, they've got a little bit of a problem on the outside. The receivers are just, like, Zay is fine. He's fine. But there's just like, there's no threat there. Andrews is good. And that's how, honestly, that's how you attack this Cincinnati Bengals defense, is through the tight end position. They are dead last. They allow the most fantasy points per game to tight ends in the NFL. Get this, Matt. They allow about 25 fantasy points per game to the tight ends. That's 10 points more than the next closest team, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Insane. They also allow the most points to the running back position in the passing game. So got a team that can throw the running backs. The Cincinnati Bengals will let you have it. Go look at Kenneth Gainwell. Go look at some of the stats of some of the games. But here's the thing that really shocked me. The Cincinnati Bengals are top 5 against the wide receiver position in the NFL at allowing fantasy points to outside receivers. And I was like, no way. Go flip back through the game log. Odunze, 2 catches. DK Metcalf, 3 catches. The list goes on and on. I don't know what it is.
0 catches.
But throwing through the outside
Odunze,
against
0,
Cincinnati it's a fool's errand. That they are a top 5 unit in that category. The matchup advantage should be Baltimore, the tight end position in particular. Mark Andrews should be in for a big game. The game script with the Cincinnati Bengals, like, all the things should be here for this high scoring affair. I really don't trust any Ravens pass catcher outside of Zay Flowers, and even him, he's got 1 touchdown on the season. Like, what upside are you getting out of Zay? You're hoping he could just catch and run and do damage in that way. Lamar's got to play better. They should be able to run the ball with Henry. I'm not trying to be negative Nancy going into the Thanksgiving break, but 52 from an offense that was struggling last week against the Jets, an offense in Baltimore that struggled of late. Tell me I'm wrong. Make me feel better about this.
You broke this down perfectly, and this is what we've been talking about, this Bengals defense all year. The only thing that they've got is DJ Turner in that secondary, who is Joe Goodberry, who's a great Bengals follow, points out DJ Turner now ranks 2nd in coverage grade from PFF out of 79 cornerbacks, 46% completion rate when targeted, ranks 3rd, 13 forced incompletions is 1st. This is the whole deal. You can get whatever you want against this Bengals defense except your number 1 wide receiver. Your number 1 wide receiver is going to get locked down by DJ Turner. I even thought last week that Stephon Diggs, who wasn't a full-time player, I thought because he moves into the slot a good bit, he would avoid Turner. He did not. He was generally covered by Turner in this game, and he was kept very quiet in the proceedings for the New England Patriots. But don't worry, Pop Douglas still got him. Hunter Henry still got him. Austin Hooper still. It was like, again, everybody except your number 1 wideout is going to bang this team. Same thing with the Bears, where it was the Colson Loveland show. It was DJ Moore making plays. Nothing for Rome Odunze. That's what's been the case for this Bengals defense. The question is, when we're looking at the Ravens, is that going to mean Zay Flowers gets locked up by DJ Turner? Ian Hartitz had a great stat where since week 1, every game since week 1, Zay Flowers has finished no better than wide receiver 23 on the week, but no worse than wide receiver 32. So he has truly been low end 2, high end 1. I was kind of hoping after that first game, like, oh, maybe he's made a leap into a new stratosphere. He is not. He's just the same Zay Flowers, which is a really good player, but probably more of a number 2 than a number 1. Somebody you're not like funneling 70% of your 30 to 40% of the targets through consistently for a healthy passing game. Is he going to get the DJ Turner treatment. Is Rashad Bateman going to come back and get sacrificed to DJ Turner? I mean, that would be kind of that would be kind of surprising, right?
You
by
make
the
it
way,
sound
Lamar
so
Jackson.
bad. You make it sound so bad, Matt. Is he going to come back and just get sacked? Just you go against DJ Turner. You are the sacrifice for this game.
That's the sacrificial X. Do I wish that Bateman was more than a sacrificial X? By the way, Bateman hasn't played the last 2 games, these bad Lamar Jackson games. It's not, don't worry, it's not Lamar's health. It's not the offensive line. It's actually that Rashad Bateman hasn't played. But seriously, that's the sacrificial X theory. Is he going to just take the best corner, clear it out so that Zay can do all the fun stuff underneath, that they can get these tight ends going?
Yeah.
Because, I do think they can get the tight ends going. Like, why can't we see Isaiah Likely? Why can't we see Mark Andrews have good games here? They're like, why don't we parlay the plus 25 yardage for Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely over 25 yards for both those guys? Why not? I think we could see it. You're not going to get great odds on it. Of course, it's 25 yards, but still, why can we not see some big games in those guys? But the question is just if DJ Turner takes away Zay Flowers, I think that really, it's like, Bateman has to come off of an injury and step up. The tight ends have to be really involved here for Lamar to have that fantasy game that we're hoping for, because while he's 5th in points per dropback when facing man coverage this year, or 5th in adjusted yards per attempt when facing man coverage this year, it's just like, again, if he's not going to run, he's got to throw the football. And this Bengals team does play 50% man coverage on late down. So it's a good matchup for Lamar in this passing game. I'm just struggling to figure out, because of all the things you laid out there and the DJ Turner factor, maybe it does have to come from somebody other than Zay Flowers.
Matt, I'm just at a crossroads, because I know he's missed time, but when I tell you that Lamar has had 1 multi-touchdown passing game since September, it just, like, you're like, man, and I know he missed some time, right? He missed some time, but since October 30th, Halloween night, when he had 4 touchdowns, he's got 1 total touchdown over the last 3 games, 2 interceptions over the last 3 games. He's not running the ball. He's sub 60%. Lamar Jackson, prior to leaving with the injury, he did not have a completion percentage lower than 65% in any of his first 5 games of the season. Since then, below 60% in 4 of 5 games for Lamar Jackson. 58%, 56%, 56.5% with 6 yards an attempt. Like, everything has gone down for Baltimore. I want to say the matchup, this is the get right spot, but I also saw the Chicago Bears put up 47 on this team, and DJ Moore and Rome Odunze do absolutely nothing. So there are ways for Baltimore to score points and the receivers not do anything. Zay is who he is. I mean, we talked about this at the beginning of the day. He is who he is, Matt. I don't know what to do with this one. I don't know what to do. What Lamar Jackson are we getting? And something else popped up that was hurt today. So just unfortunate. I hope he's healthy and we get a dope matchup.
The answer is probably put the ball in Derrick Henry's hands 25 times in this one. That would probably be the correct answer for the Baltimore Ravens. I know they haven't blocked up front as well as they have last year, but this is a game where Derrick Henry's got to touch the ball 20 times. He's 20 to 25 times. Keep the offense moving. Lamar's not going to run, and hopefully you take some shots off play action to those tight ends. That's probably how this has to go for the Ravens, and I think that will be good enough for the Ravens to win this game. I just wonder what the fantasy football conversation is that we're having about Lamar Jackson. Like, there's no way, and I've got a Lamar Jackson team, there's no way I'm benching him. It's super flex, so my option would be Tyrod Taylor, and I hope my Thanksgiving isn't that bad that I'm like, damn, I wish I had played Tyrod Taylor over Lamar Jackson. But there's no way I'd bench Lamar Jackson, but I am very curious to how this game goes and what conversation we're having about the Ravens offense after this one. All right, we are going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're talking Black Friday football. We're talking Bears, Eagles. We'll get into that right after this. All right, we're back. It's time to talk Black Friday football. Bears at Eagles. The Eagles are 7-point home favorites. The over-under is 44.5. According to the New York Times playoff predictor model, the Bears' playoff odds jump to 67% with a win. They dropped down to 43% with a loss. So obviously a big game for the Chicago Bears. I saw Bears fan Robert Mays host the Athletic Football Show. I think I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He said the Bears are just interesting enough and the Eagles are just bad enough and weird enough that he could get himself like interested and potentially excited about the Bears, you know, having an upset in this game. And I think that's the perfect way to describe how this game, how these two teams feel right now and how I feel about this game. So I can just squint and see a win for the Bears here with how things are going right now and how things have been going for the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's talk about the Bears when they have the ball. Ray, what do you have your eye on when Chicago has the ball in this game?
Yeah, when Chicago's got the ball, I think as has been for the entire season. I mean, we're focused in on the former number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, and his ability to distribute the ball to the pass catchers. Like, I think it starts there. Can Caleb get the ball to Rome Odunze, to DJ Moore, to Colston Loveland, to Luther Burden potentially? Like, what does this look like versus this Eagles defense? You know, when you look at what Chicago's going to be up against, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, they've got an incredible defensive front led by Jalen Carter and those young guns. Like, can they hold up to give Caleb time? Do we get good Caleb Williams in this one? If we get good Caleb, there's going to be an opportunity. Here's the thing with Caleb. Even when he's not as great throwing the football, his threat to run the ball is so high and he can do so much damage on the ground. He can be good for fantasy while other pieces are not as good. I do think that they found something with Colston Loveland. He is a different type of tight end. They play him outside. They move him around. He's a priority early in the first 15 scripted. He's a priority in the red zone. You know, we saw DJ Moore with the 2 touchdowns last week. Rome Odunze, 3 for 50. And I saw you talk about this. I just want to say, for everybody slamming Rome Odunze, like, his stats and his usage are eerily similar to that of Emeka Egbuka. Eerily over the same time frame since the bye. Very, very close.
Do you remember that debate we had? You remember that dynasty debate?
I do remember
it. Which one would you rather? Yeah. Since then, they both have done like nothing. It's incredible.
They've been the same, right? They really have. When you start to look at it, I think it's what you just said that Robert Mays said. I think this one is weird enough to where I can see these pass catchers having success against Philly. We just saw Dallas should have had 2 receivers over 100 yards with touchdowns and with what Jake Ferguson did. Had the pass hit CD right in the 8 and the 8. Should have a touchdown there. So this defense is not a defense that you cannot attack vertically. And I'm not sure what the health and the injury status is for their safety, Andrew Makuba, the rookie out of Texas, number 24. He got rolled up on at the end of the game when George Pickens caught that slant and ran down the field. But I do think that this one, right, we're looking at 44. Of all the games, this one's got the lowest doggone total. Both of these defenses have been leaky over the past month of the season. So it starts with Caleb. I didn't touch on okay, there it is. Yeah, I see the tweet on the screen. Makuba, 2nd rounder, surgery, fractured ankle. So I saw it at the end of the game. Pickens rolled up on him. It was bad. But I do think good Caleb can attack this Philadelphia team vertically, Matt. I do.
Yeah, Andrew Makuba injured. Adoree Jackson got banged up in that game. Reed Blankenship banged up in the game. This Eagles defense, which since their Week 9 bye, since they came back from the Week 9 bye, is a top 5 defense in basically every metric, or at least top 6 in every metric. They're once again kind of, as you said, leaky in the secondary as they have been all year, which will be really interesting for these Bears pass catchers because, since their bye, they're second in rushing EPA allowed. The Bears run game has been awesome this year. It has been a Ben Johnson masterclass. It's just going to be tough to find those run lanes in this one. So they've got to throw that football down the field. Couple interesting notes is, one, when the Eagles are in coverage, they don't really have like any coverage tendencies, right? It looks like it's going to be Sidney Brown and Reed Blankenship at safety. So he expects Reed Blankenship to play as Vic Fangio. So we'll see about that. And obviously Cooper DeJean moved outside when Adoree Jackson got hurt, and he got cooked in that. He's not an outside corner. He's a slot corner, safety hybrid type. So that opens up a lot for this team. So it's kind of tough to look back at their coverage history again, because they don't really have tendencies either. The one thing we do know is that Quinnen Mitchell is an all-pro corner. He is lined up in the slot just 2% of his snaps this year. So I think that will be an interesting one to attack, because the Cowboys clearly did that with CeeDee Lamb, just didn't catch the football. The second outside corner is also a problem. We're not quite sure Quinnen Mitchell, who is about 50-50 on either side of the field in terms of right, left, is he going to track around at Dunze? Is he going to see a lot more of DJ Moore? Because the last two games with Luther Burden kind of activated as that third receiver here, the slot rates for this team in terms of their passing plays, 48% Luther Burden, 40% Rome Odunze, 37% Colson Loveland, DJ Moore 33%, Olamide Zaccheaus at 25%. So Burden and Rome will be interesting in this game if they can get some of those slot reps. One other thing I found interesting too, Ray, researching this game in terms of the Eagles defense, the Eagles have actually allowed the most yards per game this season to outside receivers when they have lined up out wide and it's a play action pass. So 59 yards per game on play action throws to outside receivers. When the Bears use play action, Luther Burden is targeted on 36% of his routes. Rome Odunze has a team high 28 targets. He's targeted on 26% of his routes. Interesting note too, Luther Burden, 5 yards per route run on those plays. Obviously there's the flea flicker. That was, I think, probably a play action moment for him. I'm not 100% sure about that, but still he's been used downfield on those play action attempts. Interesting to consider Luther Burden in this matchup, and potentially maybe a bounce back for our guy Rome Odunze, who, as I mentioned, as you were talking about there, been a bit of a down stretch since we had that dynasty debate between him and Emeka Egbuka. And last point, just before I throw it back to you, worth noting, Egbuka hamstring injury, Rome Odunze popped up with that heel injury. That usually explains, like, when guys go through slow stretches, there's some like nagging injury. That could be the case for both those players. Just piece context there.
I think it is through you see on the screen that the Bears passing attack. I mean, Colston Loveland is really been coming on, and it's just crazy to see the Odunze kind of decline. Matt, he was a 20 point per game player before the bye, and he's all the way down to a sub 10 point per game player right now post bye. Like after the bye, you're like, what is, what's happened? I don't know what it is right now. I think some of the injury stuff is definitely there. We got Colston Loveland up on the screen, and I'll just say this, and I don't know how much is impacted by the change of Andrew Makuba not being back there at safety, but this Philadelphia defense, they're third best versus tight ends. They only allow about 8 PPR points per game to the tight end position. So if you were talking about a strength, rushing attack, they're kind of like right in the middle of the road as a run defensive unit. And you could run on them, but it's not going to be Jahmyr Gibbs versus the Giants type production. But the tight end position, they are very, very good at covering that, at least when Andrew Makuba was on the field. I don't know how things would change when he's off. So if I were going to be a little cautious on any of them, it would be Loveland. I think the tough part about Chicago all year is you just don't know whose week it's going to be. You don't know whose week it's going to be at receiver. Is it going to be a Rome week? Is it going to be a Moore week? Is it going to be one of those funny weeks where they use Olamide Zaccheaus more than any of us want to see, right? Is Burden going to get involved? It's just so up and down fickle with the pass catchers right now in Chicago. And, you could see that through some of the usage trackers, that it's just a big cluster of guys for Chicago, the pass catchers.
Let's talk Eagles here real quick before we go to break. And they're just a much less difficult team to break down from a fantasy standpoint because, as you mentioned, it's a moving target in Chicago with the pass catchers. The Eagles, we know who the guys are, right? The question is just, are the guys going to produce in any given week? And I think the interesting question this week, Ray, is that running game, which really struggled last week and has struggled all season. It is very much a stoppable force, movable object game in terms of Eagles rushing attack versus the Bears run defense. The Bears allow the second most yards before contact per running back rush attempt. The Eagles have struggled to get a push up front. They have the 10th. The Eagles offense very highly suspect in terms of moving guys on the ground here. So what do we do with this Eagles offense? Any notes to share for the people there?
I'll just say this should be a Saquon week. Like it should be. Chicago's sixth worst at allowing 10-plus yard runs. They've given up 40 10-plus yard runs this season, and they allow the fifth most rushing yards per game to the running back position. This should be a Barkley week. He sounded sad and depressed in the postgame. Said, I'm a non-factor. I'm non-existent. I haven't been there. This should be a Saquon week. That's I'll leave it at that. It should be. You're starting your receivers. This should be a Saquon week. It should be, Matt.
Bears 10th lowest man coverage rate on late downs as well. So usually when it's a more zone-heavy matchup, it's more Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I know A.J. Brown had some good plays against zone coverage last week, but went really quiet in the second half, and I think there is some reason for that. He's just not playing well against zone coverage this year. So I think Devontae Smith had a good game last week. I think he probably has the bigger game than A.J. Brown in this one. All right, we're going to take our final break. We come back. We wrap up the show with our Guillotine League segment. A lot of big-name players available after last week. We'll get into that right after this. All right, welcome back for our final piece of data. Let's remember some guys with our Guillotine League elimination update presented by Liquid Death. Every week, we reveal the 5 most cut players that played that week from eliminated teams. Essentially, those are the guys that had the duds and cost people their seasons. Then we debate which of the 5 you should break the bank on to go get for your Guillotine team. Number 5, another familiar face in this segment. I feel as if I read off his name every single week, or at least close to it. 26% of the teams with Lamar Jackson cut. They are out of it. Number 4, into the coping corner he goes, into despair, into sadness. As Ray said in the previous block, he even sounds upset about it. 28% of the teams with Saquon Barkley eliminated. Number 3, we have a tie. 29%. How could we do this without T. Higgins? How could we do this without a Cincinnati Bengal? T. Higgins and Quinnen Williams eliminated. 29% of the teams. Number 2, he has been one of the best picks you can make in drafts. The guy, the engine of one of the best offenses in the NFL. But 30% of the teams with Jonathan Taylor have been eliminated. He carried you right up until this moment, until he carried you into total defeat. And number 1 player on the most eliminated teams in Yahoo Guillotine Leagues this week. That's right, 32%. Josh Allen. You got to love it, Ray, when you immediately know from Thursday Night Football, I'm going to have a bad week. And that is what Josh Allen managers, myself included, on one of my dynasty teams knew right away it was going to be a bad week. So some of the best players in the NFL here, Ray Garvin, Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, come on. Who are we breaking the bank on to go get this week?
Man, there are some names here because, boy, if you need a quarterback, right? If you need a quarterback, Josh Allen and that stinker last week, I doubt it happens again in week 13. But JT, I mean, Jonathan Taylor, there's a chance for me to pick up JT here, and I know he's got a matchup against Houston, but, you know, the matchup against Kansas City, I continue to tell you, if you watched or read the bold predictions piece, Tail of the Take, I said Jonathan Taylor was not going to have a big game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, so you should not be panicked here. I do think versus Houston, he can find success. My heart wants to say Saquon Barkley. I want to say Saquon so bad, but I'm trusting Jonathan Taylor. I'm prioritizing JT if I got to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a 2-man race here between Josh Allen or Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. And I'll take the other side here. I'll say Josh Allen. He had 40-plus points the game before that. Could he have just spread that out? 40 points, 10 points? Could we have not just gotten 25 and 25? Actually, I'm just using my own case here. There's 0% chance I win the matchup before when he scored 40, if he didn't score 40 points. But then there was a 0% chance I was going to win this week with him. I have one dynasty team where that's where it goes. Does Josh Allen have a big game? I win. If he doesn't, I lose. Yep. Simple as that. All right, so I'm going for Josh Allen here. You all can make a decision for yourselves. And just a reminder, you can always fire up a brand new league with Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues presented by Liquid Death. Ray, hell of a show, buddy. We broke down so many things here for the Thanksgiving and Black Friday slate of games. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Really enjoyed doing this show as I have every single week with you here, man. I hope you and your family have a great holiday.
Appreciate it, Matt. You as well, my friend. You as well.
All right, folks, all of you out there, enjoy your Thanksgivings as well. Tomorrow, before that, though, okay, yeah, Thanksgiving, that's fine. It's not time yet, okay? We still got some football to talk about, and we're going to do that tomorrow here with Justin Boone. Joins me for a special edition of the pod as we preview the Sunday and Monday slate of games, and we do a little fun fantasy film room segment on some wide receivers. You will never guess which wide receiver Boone is making me chart this week to give some takeaways on. We will get into that at 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube right here. If that's not a sell, if that's not enough for you to tune in, if that's not enough for you to subscribe, I don't know what is. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, we are out.